The only thing better than a super bright bicolor light is an even brighter light. I'm talking about the Zhiyun Molus B500, a 500 watt bicolor LED light with a few tricks up its sleeve. LED lights brighter than 2 or 300 watts used to be totally out of reach for smaller filmmakers and content creators. They're just now finally getting into more budget-friendly territory. Now, Zhiyun makes some of my favorite lights when it comes to the overall look and design, like the Molus X series or the V60 wand light, and the B500 is no exception. There's obviously more important things than just looks, so let's see if the Molus B500 has a personality to match. This light is almost completely plastic, but the material is high quality, so it still feels sturdy and solid. The housing is actually semi-transparent, so under the right lighting, you're able to catch a glimpse of some of the electronics inside. As someone who grew up in the era of transparent Nintendo 64 accessories, I find this to be peak design. The mounting yoke is also plastic, but it feels heavy duty, and it has a ratcheting style handle, making it easy to tighten things down. It also sits way forward on the bottom of the body of the light, which helps with balance, especially when you're adding bigger modifiers. Instead of trying to hide them inconspicuously like other brands, the Molus B500 has 2 gigantic and 1 smaller fan, all of which have a translucent blue color. Thanks to the size and number of fans paired with a pretty hefty looking heatsink, the amount of noise this light makes is probably less than you might expect, and shouldn't affect your audio negatively at all. The top grille is also wide open, and the cooling design is part of what helps this light to be as compact as it is for how bright it is. At first glance, the B500 might only seem marginally smaller than other 5 or 600 watt lights, but the big difference here is that it does not require an external power or control box. Notice I said it does not require rather than does not have, which I'll get to here in a minute. Because the AC adapter is integrated into the body of the light itself, all you need is a single standard power cable to run this light, which does have its pros and cons. Personally, I prefer that for studio use because I hate having things hanging down or having multiple cables when it's not necessary. But that also means that this light does not have native V-mount battery support, which is a big consideration depending on how you plan to use your lights. That's also kind of a pro for its overall value because V-mount batteries that are powerful enough to run a 5 or 600 watt light can easily double your investment. This light not only has controls on the head unit itself, but it also has an optional wired USB-C controller. The Molus K1 controller has a 6.5-foot cable, so it's perfect for when you want to have your lights up high, but still want to be able to adjust the settings at the light itself. It also has a lanyard so you can hang it on the knobs of your light stand when you're not actually using it. And since I know some of you are going to ask, when you have the controller plugged in, the controls on the head unit do still work simultaneously. By turning the dials, you can adjust the brightness in increments of 1% and the color temperature from 2700 to 6500 Kelvin in increments of 100 Kelvin. Pressing in on the dials lets you jump between brightness presets in increments of 20% and between 5 common color temperature presets as well. You also get 13 special effects like lightning, flickering TV set, and fire, and you can customize things like the speed and color temperature. I would say the effects on these lights are better than average. They are realistic enough to be convincing, especially with the customization options. They're just not quite on par with things like aperture and nanlight. These lights use an analog power switch and start right back up with the last settings used even after turning them off or being unplugged. That means you can connect multiple lights to a single source and turn them on and off without losing your settings using just one switch. The Molus B series can also be controlled wirelessly via Bluetooth using the ZY Vega mobile app. The mobile app lets you control individual or groups of lights, save and load presets, as well as update the firmware wirelessly, which is always nice. This is a native Bowens mount light, so if you already have a bunch of modifiers, you're good to go. Zhiyun does make softboxes and lanterns that are really good quality, so I highly recommend those if you don't already have anything, or if you just want same branded everything. These lights also include an umbrella holder, which I thought was a nice touch because most lights, especially brighter ones, just don't include that at all anymore. Along with the light and power cable, the only other things included are the protective cap and the stock reflector, which means you don't get a carrying case. I'm not really surprised given their price and the fact that they're kind of designed more for semi-permanent or studio use. But at the same time, a nice carrying case is always much appreciated. The box these lights come in have rigid foam and a handle, so they will work, but if you plan to bring these lights on set every day, you'll want to invest in a proper carrying case. So far, everything about this light seems pretty great, but none of that matters until we look at the actual output. I tested the Zhiyun Molus B500 with my Sekonic C800 for brightness and color accuracy and got the following results. With the light set to 3200 Kelvin, I got an actual CCT of 3094 Kelvin, a brightness of 19,200 lux, and a color correction number of 0.8 green. I also got a CRI of 97 with really good individual R values, and an SSI versus the tungsten standard of 84, which is great. With the light set to 5500 Kelvin, I got an actual CCT of 5280 Kelvin, a brightness of 16,100 lux, and a color correction number of, again, 0.8 green. I also got a CRI of 96.7, again with really good individual R values, and an SSI versus the daylight standard of 74. Overall, the brightness and color accuracy are on par with comparable bicolor lights of similar power, and the only real thing to note in my opinion is that it was about 3000 lux dimmer on the daylight side versus the tungsten side, while normally when I test lights, they're a little brighter on the daylight end. 3000 lux might seem like a gigantic difference, but at this power level, it's actually less than 1/3 of a stop. That means you would still be using the same exact camera settings to get proper exposure, so it is pretty negligible. In my opinion, there's nothing inherently bad about this light, and what I think it comes down to is how you plan to use it for your specific work. If you need something to stand up to heavy-duty daily use on set, or you want something with native battery support, or just want something with a branded case included, you might think twice. But if you're looking for the best value when it comes to brightness for your dollar, the B500 makes a pretty strong case for itself. The B500 retails for $719, which obviously isn't cheap, but it is relatively inexpensive compared to the other options. The Godox NOLED M600 bicolor is $1,200, and the Nanlite Forza 500B is $1,500. Even the GVM SD500B is $799. Granted, there are differences between all these lights, but if we're talking pure power for your money, the B500 is kind of unbeatable right now. The Molus B series also comes in 100, 200, and 300 watt variations for $229, $359, and $539 respectively. Zhiyun also seems to run a lot of discounts, so make sure you check the description because I'll have any active coupon codes there. So what do you think? Leave a comment and let me know if you would choose the Molus B500 over the other options out there. Links are in the description, and if you buy anything at all after clicking my links, that's the best way to support my channel at no extra cost to you. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.